So we're playing X-Files.
We are, in fact, playing X-Files. It is a lovely, lovely, lovely game.
They can see, they just
They can see, they can hear everything.
That's true. They can just see us, they just couldn't hear.
It's okay, Rockstar Supervillain let us know too, so we did catch it pretty early on thanks to that.
I only read a couple
or
things and I can reread those in about 2 seconds, so not a big deal. Alright, so we're choosing sides. Just to reiterate, sorry for deja vu for those people that were in the room.
Aaron is playing the bad guy.
So yes. So we're choosing one player, usually the most experienced player, in this case, Aaron, to be a Syndicate player. All other players are agent players, so that would be all the rest of us. And all the agent players are working together as a group against the Syndicate player, and we either win or lose as a group. So to set up the board and decks, we place the board in the center of the table, which we've done. We separate the Agent, Syndicate, and X-Files cards into their respective pools, which we've done. They've been shuffled, and they're all set there. We've prepared the evidence bag, if you'd like to. That's this lovely black bag. I'll shake it.
You couldn't hear me shake it before, although I thought you could.
Yep. We have prepared our token banks. So we have influence tokens, which are these lovely things here that we saw before.
Yep, they're half and half. What is that? Is that the...
Half badges and half cigarettes.
Okay, so half badges, half cigarettes, and that's our evidence.
I know you can use evidence, apparently.
Yes.
Influence, yeah.
Influence.
Influence, sorry.
Everyone uses that. We also have our progress tokens, which are our lovely little file folders that help us complete our X-Files, because we have to document all of our cases, of course. And, last but not least, we have our cute little Band-Aid tokens for when we take wounds.
Aren't they cute? They're so adorable. They're adorable little baby
Band-Aids. They're so cute.
And pardon us for any motion sickness that may have occurred because of us putting that in front of the camera.
I know, we should put those in like little bowls or something instead of baggies where we can zing around the board like crazy people.
We have 4 open cases.
We do have 4. We have opened our initial X-Files, so we draw a number of X-Files cards, place them in their appropriate locations, one for each active player.
We will read these cards to you as we play.
So we will read these cards to you as we play.
Oh, and we also put the score trackers out.
We did also put the score trackers out. So I believe that covers everything up to individual setup. So let's talk about individual setup. So first off, you should also show off the lovely Syndicate folder because it's pretty. So that is,
nice.
See, the Syndicate player gets to hide behind that thing. It's lovely. And it also reminds him how to play his particular sections. So to set him up, also he needs to sit where he can easily reach all of the board, which he pretty much can, as he'll be interacting with the board pretty much more than anyone else. You're going to take this Syndicate screen and the cigarette token. So you have the screen, and now you have your cigarette tokens.
Lovely cigarette tokens.
You don't get the big bags, you only get the little tiny
That's
bag.
fine.
And you're going to draw 5 Syndicate cards. And then you are going to collect influence tokens equal to the number of players. So you get 4 influence tokens. Influence tokens are used to play cards as we continue on.
Cool.
So,
Thank you.
You may place any or all of your cards face down on the board in the Syndicate spaces connected to the X-Files cards in play. So those would be those lovely spaces.
And then this must be for us?
No.
Oh,
they're all
these are the Syndicate
Syndicates.
spaces connected to our...
Oh, I see. Okay. I got it. That's what these little ropes are.
Yep.
Okay. Literally an evidence board. That's cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about it. It's literally Mulder and his like
Yep.
map of the world, like with the. It's great.
Love it.
So, you may place any or all of your cards face down onto the board, and the Syndicate space is connected to the X-Files cards in play. If this is your first game, then just try to make sure that at least each X-Files card has at least one face down Syndicate card attached to it for now. As you play the game, you'll start to better understand how to decide where and when to place your Syndicate cards. So, and don't worry about it, you're going to replenish your full hand at the start of your turn.
Yeah.
So.
Some of these, so you don't have to worry about that folder. This one?
Yep. I haven't even seen it played yet, and I already want it.
It's real. This is going to be a really fun game.
Is that your friend down south?
Yep. Who, the South is apparently plagued with X-Files.
It really is.
There were 4 of them in the first draw.
Because she's
we
watching.
We had to put them
you.
underneath because there were too many already out.
Oh yeah, they didn't catch that because we didn't have sound.
Didn't
Every card we were pulling was for the south. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, in all fairness, if you watch the first few seasons of this show, a lot of the cases take place in the South. So
well, because aliens. you
Yeah,
know.
good. Aliens. All right. So now we're going to do individual player setup for the agents. So the agent, we're going to choose an agent and take that corresponding agent's credentials and pawn, so which we have.
Yep.
So
Want to
Sue
tell everybody who
will
we are?
Yes. So Sue, if you would like to start.
Alright, what do you want me to read here?
So just
Who
tell
you
us,
are,
just
first
say
of all,
who you
because
are.
they can't see it. Well, we can.
I am Mulder, Agent Fox Mulder, and I'm shooting.
And I guess we can
Is
read
that-
our power.
We can. Well,
want to?
the powers are technically read at the end.
Oh, okay.
So we'll go through that for now. That'll give them context for what the power.
Oh,
will
this
be
is easy
for.
then. So she's
Yeah.
Mulder. I'm Dan Scully.
That's Alex Krycek.
And I am Director Skinner.
Of course,
Yeah,
you
he
are.
has no real name. He's just Director Skinner.
Walter, you know.
Could
We're not-
introduce yourself.
We're not
one of those people that have to
Agent
have-
Krycek,
You're a boss.
we are not that friendly yet.
You're one of those folks that, like, if you were a doctor, it's always
He's just not
doctor.
real.
Yeah, exactly.
You
He's just
know.
not a real
And
So-
technically, I'm Assistant Director Skinner. I should be
Yeah.
specific. All right.
I already have the black whale eyes. I mean,
She's
So-
Agent Moreau, she's like,
so-
because aliens like us.
It's true.
And they can continue to like you because we have ghosts. You can have the aliens,
So,
I don't want both.
By the way, these are our lovely pawns. If you can see them, I don't know if you can see them very well, but
Oh
the
yeah, they come out
artwork-
really very clear on
The
the camera.
artwork is beautiful on these. This
Yeah.
whole game is just gorgeous. All right.
I have
So-
black whale eyes, and it's only season 3.
So. You do. Oh my god, that's
Oh
really
wow,
funny.
that's freaky. You do.
So that's really funny. It's
It's
a
preview for the future. What's to come.
It's foreshadowing in your eyes. All right. So put us all in the northeast.
He's the mother confessor.
So he's kind of hanging.
Well, we probably should lay
if
him
you want to
flat.
lay him side.
Otherwise,
by
you're just
so
going to see
people
an
will
orange slit,
Right.
which is very disturbing.
Right. Just 4 little orange slashes in the northeast. No X Files. Just
Here,
4
it's
slashes.
gonna-
Just a bunch of wounds on a file folder.
Yeah. So all of the agents should draw a hand of 5 agent cards, and everyone should collect 3 influence tokens. So
Okay.
Let's
Yeah, you want to deal? Whoops. Although it doesn't work very well for me. Yeah. The
Three
syndicate cards are
influence for
sitting
you.
on little cushions of
guessing I
air.
can-
So
I'm guessing I can look at these.
yeah. So
we don't really show each other the cards. It's 4, right?
So we'll talk about that in a minute. Technically, you can show each other. You just don't want necessarily the cigarette smoking man over there. to see it.
Yeah.
So we actually can talk about our hands and share our hands whenever we want to, which will.
Cool, I
get
can
to.
put my tokens right next to my
I
name.
like the pictures.
Did everybody? We should have 5 cards.
Oh, I thought you said
Oh, they're like comics.
I thought you said 4.
Sorry. 5.
No?
Thank you.
Alright.
Ooh.
That's mine. I'm giving my influence away to other people. Yeah. so this-
I'll take it. I'm the double agent.
no,
Okay.
no. You already threatened to stab me first.
I did not do anything yet.
Yeah, being the operative word.
She's not denying that she's threatened to stab you. She's just saying
Right,
yeah.
but it hasn't happened yet, so I shouldn't use my future knowledge to.
Right.
All right. So, FYI, for those of you that do ever get this game, in a 2-player game, the one player will play the syndicate member, and the person playing the agent plays 2 agents at once. So it's kind of a cool thing.
My name is.
So, because basically, because it requires teamwork mechanics between the agents, so playing the X-Files with only one agent will result in a far less enjoyable game experience. The words of the actual game developers.
They usually know.
They do. It's like they play test.
Although, I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Although sometimes stuff happens that's surprising. Like when we did some of the Noble Treachery stuff, the designers were like, wow, I've never seen that happen.
Yes.
And we were like, neither did we. It's why we cried about it for an hour.
Yes, it's true. All right, so overview of play. So during the game, the X-Files agents will move around the map, playing their agent cards to investigate the X-Files and uncovering evidence to solve when they solve the X-Files. They will then spend this evidence to assemble pieces of Mulder's poster of I love the "I want to believe" iconic image.
Yeah, that
right
will
here.
eventually be
That will
unassembled.
eventually be unassembled. We just wanted people to see what it'll look like at first, just in case we lose horribly.
You get to see it now, but maybe never
But
again.
maybe never again, at least not this
Enjoy.
time. The Syndicate player, on the other hand, will place Syndicate cards face down on the map attached to the X-Files in order to make it more difficult for the agents to solve said X-Files. In addition, the Syndicate player conceals evidence. Cigarette tokens are added to the evidence bag that can slow the agent's investigation down. While the agents must work quickly to solve X-Files in order to win the game, all the Syndicate player must ultimately do in order to win is delay the agents long enough. After all, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men should do nothing. So, to win the game, the X-Files agents uncover evidence by solving X-Files as they appear on the map. They spend this evidence in order to assemble the pieces of Mulder's I Want to Believe poster. If we assemble all 9 pieces of the poster, then we, the agents, win as a group. The Syndicate player, on the other hand, conceals evidence at the start of each of his turns for every unsolved X-File still on the map. Concealed evidence is placed behind the Syndicate screen. If the Syndicate player ever conceals a total of 25 evidence, the concealed evidence is revealed and the Syndicate player immediately wins, shutting down the X-Files for good.
And this
Or
is how
for
he
evil.
tracks.
Yes.
So we will know how much evidence,
Yeah,
even though it's
we're
on the
gonna-
screen, we
roughly,
always know
Well, I've
approximately
Yep.
where he's at as far as how much evidence.
So, we're going to start by talking real quick about the agent's turn. So, the agent's turn, as an agent, you can take the following steps on your turn, and they're described in more detail as we go
You can
forward.
see him so
Yes. So the steps that we can take are: step 1 is to move or consult another agent. So we can either move our agent pawn to an adjacent region of our choice.
Very focused.
Yes.
Keep on going. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make a focus.
So they can either move their pawn to an adjacent region of their choice or trade one card with another agent who's in your current region. The second step you can take is plan or act. Either collect 3 influence tokens or play 1 card from your hand, which will cost influence tokens. And finally, you can replenish, drawing 1 agent card and adding it into your hand. You may have any number of agent cards in your hand, so we can have as many as we want, but typically we'll probably never have more than 5 unless we're really not using our cards.
I'm not playing usually.
Correct. So, to fully explain step 1 of moving or consulting another agent, at the start of your turn, you may either move your agent pawn to an adjacent region, which basically pretty much means anywhere but the west, to start off with, or you can trade 1 card with another agent in your current region. If you do not wish to either move or consult another agent, you do not have to do either one, so you can just sit there if you want to. So to move, in order to investigate an X-File, your agent pawn must be in the same region as that X-File. So you're going to have to move around a lot during the game.
Yeah.
To move, simply pick your agent pawn and place it in a region that is touching the region that it is currently in. Again, basically, in general, this means you may move from any region to any other region except from west to northeast and vice versa.
Yeah.
Or you can consult another agent. So to consult another agent, you choose another agent player whose agent pawn is in the same region as yours. Then you give that player 1 card from your hand, and that player must also give you 1 card from their hand. Agents may show each other their hand of cards at any time, though they may want to be careful about what they allow the Syndicate player to see and or overhear. You cannot force another agent player to trade with you, they must agree to do so. So basically you can have a conversation saying, I got this thing, I got that thing, and hopefully, it's going to be weird trying to do this and still make it so that the people watching will understand what we're doing and not have the Syndicate player, so it might be a little bit of a challenge.
We can always show our cards underneath the camera, though, above
true.
Aaron's head.
That is very true. Or it can be as much a surprise to the audience as it will be to the Syndicate
too.
player.
That is
so
true.
step
We can
2
do that.
is to plan or act. So after moving or consulting another agent, you may either plan, which basically means you just take 3 influence tokens, or you can act by playing a card from your hand. When you choose to plan, you just take 3 influence tokens from the pile of influence tokens available. If there are fewer influence tokens than that available, then simply take all of the remaining influence tokens. If there are no influence tokens left in the pile, you cannot collect any more until the player spends some. And keep in mind that the Syndicate player is also using our influence pool. So
if
want
I
to use
hoard-
as much. Technically, if you hoard, now granted, you're going to want to spend some as much as we will. But yes, you're not going to. Nobody is going to want to hoard influence because we want to be able to have it to draw. And again, influence is used to play agent cards from your hand, and also used by the Syndicate player to activate his Syndicate cards.
So when it says something like investigate 3, to be able to investigate, I would spend 3.
We'll talk about that in just a moment, but it's in some case it depends. It actually isn't that. Investigate 3 is something different.
Okay.
I'll talk about the costs in just a second when we talk about playing cards. So, and again, if you don't have enough to pay for the cards you want to play, you want to plan in order to gain more influence. And note, if your agent is injured, you may heal wounds instead of collecting influence as described on page 14.
Okay.
All right. So
It's true.
So, acting. When you act, you're going to select one of the cards in your hand and play it. The cost to play a card is normally 1 influence. However, each agent card is keyed to one of 5 skills, shown on the by the icon in the middle of the card.
Okay.
If you examine your agent credentials, you'll notice that your agent is strong in 2 skills, one of which is always the general skill, which is the little
Alien thing?
alien ship. And then weak in 1 skill. When you play a card keyed to a skill your agent is strong in, it costs you 0 influence.
Ooh.
On the other hand, when you play a card keyed to a skill your agent is weak in, it costs you 2 influence. And the list of skills are as follows. So there is a gun for conflict skills, an alien's head for paranormal, a little pen for political, and then a microscope for science, and then of course the alien ship for general.
So if you're neither weak nor strong, you just
It
pay
costs
1.
1.
Okay.
If you are strong, it costs you nothing, and if you are weak, it costs you 2.
Okay.
And I will probably have to revisit that several times just to make sure people are comfortable.
That makes sense.
So, once you have paid for your card, simply read it aloud and carry out its effects. Afterwards, discard it face up in a pile next to the agent deck. So, just right over
Right
here.
there, yeah.
Investigation cards. Most agent cards allow you to investigate an X file in your region, and will say something like Investigate 3. Investigations put progress tokens on X files and are how agents solve X files. Investigations are described further in detail a little bit later. We also have ally cards. So a couple of cards are labeled ally cards. These cards are played face up into the ally space on the map. An ally's card effects last as long as it remains in play, and it remains in play until another ally card is played or revealed. Once another ally card is played or revealed, the previous ally card is discarded, and the new ally's card effect comes into play. So, as an example, if the agent plays Deep Throat is placed in the ally space on the map. And while he is in play, cigarette tokens are not added to the evidence bag. A few turns later, during an investigation, the Syndicate player reveals the Well-Manicured Man. Deep Throat is immediately discarded, and the Well-Manicured Man is placed in the ally space on the map instead. Now, not only are the cigarette tokens once again added to the evidence bag, but each time the Syndicate player does so, they add an extra cigarette token. So we will be fighting for that ally space.
Oh, God.
Which is, of course, up in that little box over there.
Okay.
Oh, I need him.
You don't want to play him first, though.
Do I? Maybe I want
Maybe
8
you
cigarette
do.
tokens in there right away.
Well, it's only a max of 2 per round, but still.
Yeah.
At least I think. I don't know
Well,
what
if,
cards
it's,
are in there.
well, if it says every time I add a cigarette token, I add them.
You only add 1 per turn, no matter what. You just if you draw any number of evidence tokens out of the bag,
It's
you
just-
put 1
okay.
cigarette token in. So it would be a second cigarette token.
Okay.
And then there are wound-related cards. So a few cards either cause or heal wounds to an agent. Wounds interfere with investigations and are described in more detail further on. And then our final step is to replenish. So finally, you end your turn by drawing 1 card from the agent deck and adding it to your hand. Most often this means your hand will have the same number of cards in it as it did at the start of your turn. However, your hand size can grow or shrink over the course of the game and you don't play a card or play more than 1 card during your turn, which can happen when you plan or play certain cards that allow you to play another card. So normally you're only playing 1 card a turn unless the card specifies that you can play more than 1.
Okay.
You may have any number of cards in your hand at once. There is no hand limit. If an agent deck runs out of cards, simply turn over the discard pile and shuffle it to form a new agent deck. So, and that's basically true for any of the decks that we have. If you run out of cards, we just reshuffle them and start over. So now we're going to talk about the Syndicate player's turn and what he can do. So these are the things that Aaron will be doing to try and mess with our lives. So, as a Syndicate player, take the following steps on your turn. So you get 5 steps to take. They are described in more detail in the summary below. So first, step 1 is to conceal evidence. So you're going to draw 1 evidence token from the evidence bag for each X file that is currently unsolved on the map. Then add 1 cigarette token to the evidence bag if you drew at least 1 evidence token from the evidence bag. You are then going to replenish X-Files. So draw X-Files cards from the X-Files deck and put them into play until the number of X-Files in play is equal to the number of agents. So basically we will always, after we've solved some, it'll always
You'll always
refill
have
back to 4.
new ones.
You will then refill your hand, so draw cards from the Syndicate deck until you have 5 cards in your hand. You will collect influence equal to the number of agents, so you're getting 4 influence every turn. And you will play Syndicate cards, so you can play any number of Syndicate cards from your hand. You may swap out Syndicate cards you've previously played on the map, returning the old card to your hand, but you must pay 1 influence per swap.
Yep.
Concealing evidence. So if you draw 1 evidence token from the evidence bag, we've already talked about that. If you draw a cigarette token from the evidence bag, so if you place a cigarette token in and you draw it back out, you simply set it aside and keep drawing evidence tokens until you have the total number you're supposed to, and then just put the cigarette tokens back in the bag.
Okay.
Oh, man.
And again, if at any turn, if you draw one or more evidence tokens from the evidence bag on your turn, then afterwards you add one cigarette token from behind your screen to the evidence bag, unless all the cigarette tokens are already in the bag. And cigarette tokens, again, will slow down our progress, and we'll talk about that when we get into the section.
That would suck.
And again, you can only add one cigarette token to the evidence bag per turn, even if you draw more than one evidence token.
Yeah.
So for replenishing X files, again, I'm not going to really go into detail on it. It's basically the same. Just remember that if you're drawing and it doesn't and it matches a spot that's already got an X file in it, what happens? So if there are fewer unsolved X files cards in the map than there are agents, you're going to draw new X files from the X files deck until there are X files in play equal to the number of agents. When you draw a new X file, place it in its respective region on the map. The Northeast, West, Midwest can contain at most one X file card each, while the South can contain two, as we mentioned. If a region is full and you draw another X file belonging to that region, simply discard the card that you drew, placing it face down on the bottom of the X files deck, and draw again until you get enough X files to refill the board. So basically just like we did at the start.
Okay.
And then to refill your hand, again, you're just going to pull the 5 cards, and if you're out of cards, you reshuffle the discard pile. And again, collecting influence. Now, for you, paying influence is a little bit different than us. We pay influence when we're playing our cards initially. You don't pay the influence until you reveal the cards, which you can choose to do or not do at your as appropriate. Next is to play Syndicate cards. So you may play any of the Syndicate cards from your hand face down on the map to the Syndicate spaces that are connected to the X files for these lovely multicolored spaces for each region. Now, you may play only one Syndicate card into each space, so thus you may have only one Syndicate card attached to an X file in the Northeast, 2 attached to an X file in the Midwest or South, or 3 attached to an X file in the West. So basically, the further away you get from our home base, the more Syndicate cards you can have on an X file. You may only play Syndicate cards into spaces attached to X files that currently contain an X file card. So if there is no X file card in there, you cannot add things like that. So right now, you can't affect the Northeast right now.
You can't hit Maine. That's really
correct. And again, playing Syndicate cards from your hand is free. You do not pay the influence costs, as I mentioned. Also, you may peek at the Syndicate cards you've already played at any time to remind yourself of what they are. So if you're like, I don't remember what I put there, you can take a look. You may not discard any Syndicate cards from your hand. You may only play them onto the map. However, you may swap out a Syndicate card already played on the map for one in your hand by paying 1 influence. So basically, just like we can swap cards out, so can you.
And now that I know how I activate them, I will discard. I will play all the cards in my hand.
So you simply pay the influence, then pick up the card from your map and add it to your hand, and then take a card from your hand. Even the same card that you just added to your hand if you wish to bluff. And play it face down on the map in the space that you picked. You picked up the Syndicate card from, and of course you can do this as often as you like, as long as you have the influence to pay for it. So now let's talk about investigations. So, as an agent, when you play an agent card that says investigate, followed by a number, you're going to investigate an X file in your current region. You simply choose an X file in the same region as your agent pawn, which really only matters in the South, and place the indicated number of progress tokens on the X files card. Thus, if you play a card that says investigate 5, you would place 5 progress tokens on the X files card in your current region, choosing one of the 2 X files if your agent pawn is in the South and there are 2 X files currently open there. Many cards you use to investigate have ways that you can boost their effectiveness. In these cases, simply follow the directions on the card to determine how many progress tokens to add to the X file. For instance, the lab analysis card says investigate 3, and then +1 for every other card you discard. So if you discard 2 other cards from your hand after playing lab analysis, it would become investigation of 5, meaning that you would add 5 progress tokens to the X file in your region. And you'll notice that the X files that are on the board, the little the little number in the corner,
that's the bottom corner.
That little bottom corner.
So this one takes 6.
Is going to take 6.
We should probably say, once we get ready to play, we'll want to read those.
Yep. The top number, that top number there, is telling you how many evidence you get to pull out of the bag for solving that particular.
Okay, so there's like 2 steps to each one of these
Correct.
suckers. Okay.
Actually,
Have fun.
now that I know more about what those actually are saying, I'm going to read a strip of my cards.
Do you want
That's
me to
fine.
take these?
Yeah. You could. I was almost going to suggest that you wait until you finish. Actually, wait until I finish explaining everything, just to be clear. So, because this now comes into play.
That was our chance to actually have a handicap.
I know, it's going to be kind of nice, but I just let it go. So, Syndicate cards and investigations. Each time you investigate an X file that has one or more face-down Syndicate cards attached to it, the Syndicate player has the option to reveal any or all of the attached cards. To do so, the Syndicate player pays influence equal to the number in the center of the Syndicate card, turns the card face up, and resolves the effects of the card. After the Syndicate card's effect has been resolved, the card is discarded face down into a discard pile next to the Syndicate deck. No weird. That's normal.
Yeah.
Syndicate cards can have a bunch of different effects, from inflicting wounds on the agents to forcing agents to discard cards. A few of the more common effects are described in detail below. So the most common effect is no effect at all, which is the Hiding the Truth card has no effect and costs nothing to reveal. It is simply a bluff card to scare the agents with and to cause Mulder to waste his special ability on, which we'll talk about in just a few moments.
I
Sometimes
get
so
that.
douchey.
Yeah. Trust me, this game is everything about this is fantastic. So sometimes the Syndicate player may want to reveal a Hiding the Truth card in order to gloat at the agents, but most of the times he'll want to leave it unrevealed, discarding the face down X file attached to, or discarding it to be discarded with face down when the X file it's attached to is solved, leaving the agents wondering what the heck it was. And you can also, in many cases, they can also cancel an investigation. So the Syndicate player's most common cards cancel an investigation of a particular type. If the current investigation was caused by an agent card of that type, the symbols will match, so it's the same symbols that we talked about on the cards before. If so, the Syndicate player may reveal the card to prevent the agent from adding any progress tokens to the attached X file. So, for instance, if the agent plays an Incredible Discovery, normally a science card that starts an investigation of 5, and the Syndicate player has Grave Robbing card attached to the X file being investigated, the Syndicate player may pay 3 influence to reveal Grave Robbing and prevent the agent from adding any progress tokens to the X file. That being said, canceling an investigation does not cancel any other effects of the card the agent played. So if it lets you draw cards or play extra cards, things of that nature, it doesn't stop that. It literally just stops you adding progress tokens to the X file.
Yep.
Only for that turn, or for
Just
any,
for that turn.
For the
Well,
rest
just for that turn, and literally, it's basically if he. So it's not even that turn. It's that. Let me see here. It's that particular that investigation itself. So because you're playing a card to create an investigation, he can then use that card to stop that investigation. So, for example, if
But
you
is it limited? Is his card limited? It has the
They just won't
microscope.
use.
right.
So
So
if he forgot it had the microscope and someone started it with a pen, it wouldn't do anything
No,
at all.
I couldn't cancel
that would be correct. However, he can look at his card before he
Right.
decides to play it or not. So it's
Yeah.
not like he's going to be limited in that piece. He just has to double check.
Right, but he would know better than to flip it over, and you would think you're almost done.
Well,
and then
because he
you
can
play.
just pick it up and then be like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
He can do that
yeah.
even if he didn't forget, just to mess people,
Yeah,
mess with people
Just to
and
be
psych
like,
them out.
Right.
Yeah. I think I have to cancel it before...
Especially because you could you could lull people into a false sense of security. You don't cancel it before it's played. You can't I would play it and then you cancel it.
I mean, in the case of her double agent power, where she inflicts wounds on someone to get more investigation, when does the cancel?
Technically, whenever you choose to reveal
Okay.
it, so you could wait to reveal it until she's
She's
used
almost
that power.
done,
It's
and then
just
you're
it's just like the fact that you can completely thwart Mulder's power by having the reveal thing on there. Same exact thing. You can
Okay.
basically now negate a lot of our powers that way in certain circumstances. So you
So I
want
can
to be
wait-
very
yeah.
strategic in when you're using your particular syndicate cards.
Yeah.
Because in some cases you want them to be the most bang for your buck, obviously. But yeah, technically, if she chose to use that power first. Now, granted, if you said it basically is going to happen in the order it says. So, as far as that goes.
So it'll be card by card basis how I choose what I'll activate it.
Because basically what happens is that you create you start the investigation first, and then you decide, do I reveal syndicate cards? So you've basically done your piece. Because I believe that's when you're doing the investigation, right?
It's once
Let's
per
return
turn.
when investigating an X file. So basically, when you're triggering the investigation, you're going to
Okay.
do that.
So it would be, I'm doing this investigation, and then she chooses if she's using her power, and then I choose if I'm going to make that investigation not work.
Yep.
Okay.
So, inflicting wounds. So again, many of the syndicate cards will inflict wounds to the agents. Wounds slow down an agent's investigation are explained in more detail further on. Will be in just a few moments. And again, ally cards. You will have ally cards as well as we do, as we've discussed before. So if you were to play the well-manicured man over top of our deep throat, which sounds really awkward to say it that way, then you would cause the ally to discard.
That's why I didn't say anything.
So, solving an X file. It's appropriate. Mulder would appreciate it.
Yeah, he
So
would.
anyway, if you add progress tokens to an X file and that total number of progress tokens on the X file is greater than or equal to its difficulty, which is that large number on the bottom of the card, you first immediately draw evidence tokens from the evidence bag equal to the number in the upper right-hand corner of the X files card, as I mentioned before. Any evidence tokens you draw are turned face up and kept on the map or by the map in a pool that we can then use potentially to buy pieces of this map.
Okay.
However, each cigarette token you draw from the bag, on the other hand, is returned to the Syndicate player, who returns the cigarette token behind his player screen. This represents that the Smoking Man got to the evidence first, and basically means you lose out on one of your evidence tokens for winning, for defeating that particular section. Okay. So after you've drawn your evidence for solving the X-Files card is turned face down in its space, so it's still there. Although the X-File has been solved, it is now added to the case archives in that region, and certain cards may refer to the number of cases that have already been solved in the region. As a result, only discard an X-File from a region, placing the card face down at the bottom of the X-Files deck if a card specifically says to do so.
Okay.
Once you've turned the X-File face down, do not immediately replace it with new X-Files from the X-Files deck, as instead, solved X-Files are replaced during the Syndicate player's turn.
Yep.
After the Syndicate player has received evidence for the turn.
We want as many off the many
close
as possible
close as
before
many as possible before he starts his turn.
Okay.
This means that every X-File you solve effectively reduces the amount of evidence the Syndicate player gets to conceal for the turn. So agents and evidence. So evidence that the agents have drawn from the evidence bag is placed face up near the map. At the end of any agent player's turn, the agent may choose to spend some of this evidence in order to assemble a piece of Mulder's I Want to Believe poster, as we've talked about before. The puzzle pieces cost 1 evidence per player. So we would need 4 pieces of evidence in order to be able to buy 1 piece of this.
And once we buy 1 piece, that gives us a point on the score, right?
Correct,
Or
yes.
we move up on the score.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, we do not immediately have to spend evidence that we've drawn from the evidence bag. We may instead save it for later. This can have some advantages, but if many cigarette tokens are in the evidence bag, it's best to spend evidence quickly in order to pad out the number of evidence tokens in the bag. Because basically, the more we keep out of the bag, the more cigarette tokens he has in there, the less evidence we're potentially going to be pulling out.
Right.
So it's in our best interest to spend it in most cases.
Yep. Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So now that I've explained this, I will actually pick this up.
Oh.
Let's kind of throw it aside on your side, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you can put it together.
If you want to run it away.
Put it next to the alien, because we want to believe. All right. So wounds, our favorite thing. I know everyone's been waiting for those lovely little Band-Aid tokens. So as the agents investigate deranged killers and freakish creatures, sometimes they'll find themselves in harm's way. When this happens, the agents will often suffer wounds. When your agent suffers a wound, take a wound token and place it on your agent credentials. Wounds make an agent less effective. For each wound on an agent, that agent deals adds 1 less progress token to X-Files when investigating. Thus, if an agent has suffered 3 wounds and plays a card that allows the agent to investigate 5, that will result in only 2 progress tokens getting added to the X-File instead of 5. There is a wound limit. However, agents live something of a charmed life and cannot be killed by wounds. So none of the main we are main character immune. Instead, an agent may have at most 5 wounds on their credentials at once. After that, the agent cannot voluntarily or involuntarily suffer more wounds until they've healed some of their previous wounds. Again, healing wounds. Some agent cards will explicitly heal an agent of 1 or more wounds. For each wound an agent is healed of, remove 1 token from their credentials.
Yep.
In addition, each time an agent would receive influence tokens, either from an agent card or from planning, the agent player may choose not to receive some or all of that influence in order to rest and heal instead. So for each influence the player chooses not to receive, the agent is healed of 1 wound. Note that agents cannot spend influence they already have in order to heal. They must give up influence that they are about to receive in order to heal. This represents the agent taking time to rest and recuperate.
Yep. Makes sense.
So there's also Chase and Firefight agent cards. 2 agent cards interact with wounds in unusual ways. The Chase card initiates an investigation of 2, but the agent adds 1 for each wound on the agent's credentials instead of subtracting 1 for each wound. Thus, an agent with 4 wounds who plays a Chase card initiates an investigation of 6. The Firefight card, on the other hand, initiates an investigation of 3, plus 1 for each wound the agent voluntarily suffers after the investigation is over. These voluntary wounds are subject to the normal wound limit of 5 wounds. An agent may not suffer wounds that would bring them past this limit, so if an agent has suffered 2 wounds previous to playing Firefight, they could at most suffer 3 more wounds voluntarily, bringing the investigation to a total of 4. 3 minus the 2 wounds they already had, plus 3 for the wounds voluntarily suffered after the investigation.
Jeez.
And last but not least, we have the agent special abilities. So do we want to have each person who is the agent read their special ability?
Yeah.
Sounds good. So we'll start with Mulder.
Believer. At the start of his turn, Mulder may pay 1 influence to look at the face-down Syndicate card of his choice. He may share this knowledge with the other agents. I
It might
don't
be
know
a good
why
idea to
you
say what
wouldn't.
you're strong and weak in too, so that Aaron knows and the audience.
Why would I not want to share what I found out with the other agents?
You don't trust Agent Krychek. I'm just saying. No.
Hey. It's like you think I was silent all over again.
No.
But yeah, I'm strong with the alien cards and weak against, I'm guessing, science or whatever
Yeah.
that is.
So you're strong. Everybody's strong in general. But then
Yeah.
you're also strong against paranormal skill
Paranormal
cards.
and-
And weak for science cards.
Yeah.
All right.
right.
So
Dana
Dana
Scully.
Scully.
When I guess is the opposite.
When Scully draws one or more evidence tokens, she draws an extra, returning one evidence token to the evidence bag after looking at them. She is strong in science, and she is not good at, what's combat? The gun combat?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
yeah. So she's not very good at combat, but she's very sciencey.
Yeah.
Brainy.
So, and by the way, her power is called Skeptic.
Skeptic,
Just to be
sorry.
clear. Yeah, and just so you know, the basic
this
function
an
of that
ice
ability, is it allows her to avoid cigarette tokens more easily than other agents. So
Yeah.
basically, when you're pulling, you actually do have the ability to be like, oh, this would be a cigarette token, so I'm going to toss that back in.
Yep.
So next is Walter Skinner, and Walter Skinner's well-connected ability. So when Skinner's player starts their turn, they immediately collect one influence token. As usual, Skinner's player may choose not to receive this token in order to heal one wound.
Cool.
And then, last but certainly not least, Agent Krychek.
Sure. Yeah, you're not buttering me up. You don't fool me. Krychek's power is the double agent. Once per turn, while I'm investigating an X file, I may wound another agent to add +2 to my investigation. I am strong in the gunfighting skills, and I am weak in the politics, because who likes paperwork?
And just an FYI, the chosen agent cannot refuse to be wounded, and Krychek cannot choose an agent that already has 5 wounds on their agent card.
Yes, because of
Just to
wound limit.
clarify, yeah. And of course, you can only use that ability once per turn.
Yes.
Pretty much is true for all of our powers. But.
Yeah.
And then there's some very lovely artwork in the back of the book to fill out. I think it's quite.
It was nice.
Yes.
So
Alright,
can you heal at any time you would be gaining?
So anytime you
influence?
would gain influence,
Okay.
you can choose to set every
So
influence
during-
you choose not to take will give you a wound back.
Okay, so if like I
Make it
chose
move
to
away.
plan, but I only took
One, you would
influence?
heal 2 wounds.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Cool.
Unless, I mean, yeah, basically.
Do we need to roll off to see which investigators go first on this?
I
Or how do we do it?
believe that in order for it to make any kind of sense whatsoever, I would assume that the agent would go, the next to the syndicate player would go first, and it would go around, because I'm pretty sure all the agents
Yeah.
go before the syndicate player.
Okay.
Yeah, I would assume
It doesn't
you guys
actually
do.
That's fine.
say, I don't think, that I noticed. Yeah, it does not actually specify, but it makes sense that
Yeah.
the syndicate player would go last. If
Well, no,
not-
I knew he was. What I meant
Yeah.
is as far as when I say players, I don't mean him.
Yeah.
Just like
Oh, I see. I mean, technically, we could roll off to see who goes first, but ultimately, I figure it just makes. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter if we want to.
It doesn't matter to me either. I just didn't know
I
how
was
to
just
do
thinking.
it.
I was just thinking for ease, we just go around, so it
That
would
works.
just work. But it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Because otherwise it could go like Sue, you, me.
Which
me,
it could,
and then-
but we'll get confused.
Then
Or
we
at least,
have- then
at
we
least
have-
I'll get confused. I don't know about everybody else.
Because we know how good we are at moving the cookie.
That's
Player
true.
token.
That's
That's
very
true.
Yes, we'll get that.
So.
Oh, right. We need to be more careful
Okay.
about looking at
And then remember, we
Yes.
want to read these to everybody.
Well, technically,
we
you
should
can-
probably
if
mention.
someone's holding their cards out so you can see all of them, then
That's
you
their
see
problem,
them.
yeah.
It's the same thing. Like, it tells us we have to be careful to not show them or talk to you about them. Like, so it's on us, not you.
Yeah.
we
you
probably
are the
should
syndicate, you
mention
can
because
see.
nobody can read these.
Yes.
Is we should talk about what they have for requirements. So this one needs 5 investigation, and it provides 2.
2 evidence.
And
This
it's also a conflict card. Is that right?
Oh no! At conflict
So-
investigations, get 1 less.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, that whatever
Same
the
thing with
symbol
these
is.
little thingies.
Well, I think
It
it
depends.
may be
So-
the color
No,
positive.
no, the color's just the color of the symbol.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, so it's
So there's
literally
a potential limitation.
So
So,
my-
combat limitation.
Combat
And
limitation.
my thought is when
politics.
we move, my thought just for ease is that when we move into a location, we'll read the active X file that's there.
Well, yeah,
Well,
I
I'm
know
just
that. I'm
thinking
saying we
maybe
want
we
to let them
wanna-
know what the investigation
Yeah.
is and what the limits are, so they know why we're making the decisions we're making.
Yeah.
Because we can see it, but they can't. So we're not reading this part. I'm just saying.
Oh, I see.
this
Just reading
and
the
this.
numbers of the.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and then with the Midwest one, it's 6 investigation. It
The
rewards
2.
2 evidence, and again, there's a
Weak to
conflict
Mm-hmm.
limitation. For this left hand side of the south, it's 4 investigation. It doesn't look like there's a limitation of any kind for skills. but it rewards only 1 evidence. And then for this side of the South, 6 investigation. The pen's politics.
Yep.
So there's possible politic limitation.
Yep.
And it rewards 2 evidence.
For the record, this one, and for every agent investigating, they suffer a wound afterwards.
Okay.
That's what the limitation is on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Oh, and FYI, I forgot to mention. So Skinner is strong in politics and weak in paranormal.
Okay.
So
You all cover the bases.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With all 4 of us in place, we all
Yeah.
There's a
Coverage.
strength somewhere for everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Alright, and okay, that doesn't do any good. Okay. And that doesn't do any. Well, this is kind of crappy. Okay. I kind of want to get rid of some. I kind of want to consult, but it's kind of useless right now.
Part of me should have gone like the little cigarette, the candy cigarette things. Like
Yeah,
the bubble
that'd be
gum.
awesome.
That
I was
does
gonna buy
smoke.
sunflower seeds and I forgot. That would have been neat.
Well, considering
Or if you just got the Pall Mall ones. just
considering
so you
I'm a
can
conflict
sugar
person, I'm
and
not
smoke
going
them.
to the Midwest because that's just wrong. I'm going to go to the South.
She's visiting her pen pal.
Yes, I'm going to go to the South.
All right.
I may or may not actually start investigating this, but I'm
Might as well
curious.
read it. Yeah.
So, Misai. His name is Dr. Takeo Ishimaru. He's been dead since 1965. He was the commander of an elite section of the Japanese Medical Corps known as the 731, a unit now known to have experimented on human subjects. Yes, political investigations add 1 less progress to this X-Files than usual.
Okay.
But I'm not a political darn person, so I don't care about that. And it is a 6 investigate. Alright. Which is I'd like to just say, call it, I'm going to, unfortunately, pay 1 influence. I don't know where we want to put them. It's
Oh,
paid.
I don't know where to go.
Yeah, the
Put-
pool
put-
just
Put a loophole.
Here, I'll just.
Yeah. Or you can just put them aside because you know you'll always have a couple.
Yeah, because we're going to put the thing there.
Yeah.
I mean, we can put them
mine on my
here
laptop.
if we're both going to be using them. We can put them
Yeah.
here too.
Yep.
So I'm going to pay 1 because I am not strong or weak in the science, and I have just made an incredible discovery. Because, Agent Scully, what you are looking at, it exists nowhere in nature. It would have to be, by definition, extraterrestrial. So, this is an incredible discovery worth 5 investigate. So, I can put in 5 progress tokens there.
Nice.
I need progress tokens.
Well, it depends. So are you using your power?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay. So,
And then that card would go to the discard. Is that what it does after?
Yep.
Okay.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I would keep them face up just so that we don't accidentally.
Well, it
mess
said,
up.
it said face
Oh, they go face down.
It
the
said face
discard?
down when
Yeah.
I was reading.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, all the discard piles are face down.
Yeah,
Because-
so that when
Because when you do
Yeah.
your discard, when he discards the syndicate cards, those stay face down. So
I
you don't know what
see.
he's
you never
used
knew
or
what it
not.
was yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So we need 1 more for there.
Yeah. And I draw an agent card. Really?
Mhm.
Really?
Mhm.
And you can play more than 1 card as long as you have the influence for it. Is that correct? Or
No,
just
Yeah.
1
you
card
can only
per turn?
play
There
one
are
card
cards
unless
that
you have
tell
a card
you
that
that
tells
you can
you
play
can
it.
Okay,
Card.
I gotcha.
Art director Skinner.
You get off your butt. Get up from behind your desk and get out in the real world like a normal person.
You're now tempted to stay there, aren't you?
I really am. I can Considering
He
the fact
made me the double agent. He can deal with it.
Considering the fact that every time Skinner leaves the office, he usually ends up beaten to death or shot, I'm pretty sure it's
Not
gonna
my fault.
Well, it's gonna happen.
I mean, I'm gonna wound you, and you know I am.
It's totally your fault. As a matter of fact,
Are
I think
we-
you actually shot me once.
Are we allowed to like
Not
talk
yet.
amongst ourselves,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
we're planning
Oh, yeah,
to
yeah.
do?
Yep, we just have to
or
be
whatever?
careful how much information we give to a certain someone in the upper corner of this board. Because he will remember and he will use it.
And I'm not tired, so I will.
Yes.